First of all, I'd like to thank the organization for inviting me. I'm going to talk about the behavior of the feral horses in Serra d'Arga in Portugal, where we are developing our project. And I'm going to try to speak slowly. Let's see if I can do it. Usually it's difficult. And so my background is primatology. I started in my undergrad studies, which my supervisor was Claudio Souza, Dr. Claudio Souza, and she is one of the main reasons we are all here. Unfortunately, she passed away, and she was one of the first students of Professor Matsuzawa, so she was the first and the bridge, still is, because she's among all of us, between Japan and Portugal. So I started by studying chimpanzees in captivity settings, so I developed a project on social behavior, also using the famous chimpanzee eye and others. But my real goal was to go to the field, and so for my PhD I developed a study on development of independence and mother-infant attachment in Borneo orangutans, in which I spent almost 2 years in the forest. And now I continue to work in the field, and I moved to Portugal, where everything started, to study the feral horses' behavior. And my main goal is also studying mother-infant behavior and female reproductive ecology and social behavior, which I'm not going to really focus here today, but I'm just going to go through a brief history of our project. So how is the primatology and the studies of horses related? So the primatology was born because of a group of scientists that were studying after the Second World War in the feral horses of Cape Toy in Japan. And they observed the horses' behavior, but the horses were living with the Japanese macaques in the same area, so they realized that macaques were actually more interesting, and then they switched the target. And since 1950, the Japanese have been developed the methods to study primates, and now we are going back and we are going to apply these methods that have been developed since these long years, and going to apply to the study of the feral horses back home in Portugal. So it's kind of a cycle. Started with working with horses, now we are going back after all these years to the study of feral horses in Portugal, and the connection I explained before. So our approach is to study the horses in their natural environment, to understand their interactions between groups of horses, and also the interactions between the individuals in one group, so more at the society's social level. And then we are also working in the lab, especially my colleagues, where they study horse cognition, and mainly the social cognition of horses, but also interactions between humans and horses in the more controlled environment. So far there's been a study conducted by Professor Tomonaga in the physical cognition, where he teach horses to discriminate quantities, and then he compared horses with dolphins and primates. And on the other side, we have studies on social cognition that are being led by Dr. Hingoffer. She's also our colleague studying feral horses, but she focused more on the interactions between horses and humans, trying to understand if the horses possess knowledge about human mental states, and also the knowledge states of humans, for example, regarding where they hid the food reward. And so here we are also, as I explained before, studying the social behavior of feral horses in Portugal. And our first paper was published comparing the society of primates and horses. And together with my colleague that is studying gorillas, we are also planning to do a short review and comparing these two populations, because horses' social system and gorilla's social system is very, very similar, despite all the years of divergency. And also we are focusing on the intergroup and intergroup relationship and social behaviors, and recently our colleague published a paper on spatial positioning and social behavior in horse groups, and much more work is to be done. So just briefly, I want to explain how the horse social system works. And this is the natural setting. So wild horses behave like that. And in Portugal, we can find this kind of social composition and interactions between groups. So we have groups of horses are mainly consisted of two males groups or one male group. And also we have solitary stallions that range around, and bachelor groups that are groups constituted only by males, young males that gather together. So they are not territorial. That means they use the same land, and they are loyal to this land that they defend. Also, they are characterized by female defense polygyny. That means one male guard a group of females, and they fight with other males to defend their females. And horses have strong social bonds among them, and that can last for a lifetime, similar to primates. So that's why it's very interesting to compare both taxa. So this is our study site, and it's located in the north of Portugal, very close to Spain. And the climate is an Atlantic climate, and the mountains are mainly constituted of granite. And we have free-ranging horses, and they are feral horses. So they were domesticated many years ago, and they were released, and they live in the natural conditions. And most of them are owned by villagers. And we started in 2016, our group, and so far we have identified 210 adult individuals, but if we count with the foals, it reaches 300, and they are divided in 36 groups. So this is a brief view of what it looks like. So we have a few, I don't know if the image is clear, but we have few horse groups, 3 individuals, and then I think, yeah, I cannot see from here, but a few. And our study site is divided into main areas, and that is the area we call second field. And sometimes you can see around 20 groups of horses grazing in this area. And in the summer, when it's very hot, they hide under the trees. So we have different compositions. For example, this is 6 individuals, and we have a group of 3, and then later we have 2 individuals, this young couple that travel together. So it's a bit foggy too. In the winter, it's very difficult to do observations. Okay, so what is the uniqueness of this place is that this is all the main study sites for horse research, and as you can see, it's one of the few that have predation. So there are wolves, and the population of wolves is growing, and it makes it a very unique and interesting place to study, especially how horses are adapted to these predatory pressures, especially because they have been domesticated for many, many years. So what we do basically is we observe their behaviors, like sexual behaviors, agonistic behaviors between stallions and females, affiliative behaviors such as, for example, playing behavior. You can see a colt playing with a foal. And then we have grooming behaviors, herding behaviors. That's the behavior where the horse behaves like a sheepdog and guard the females, and also mare-foal, mother-infant behaviors. So we use drones to study their spatial positioning, but also the nearest neighbors, so which individual is close to each, and if they are more central or more peripheric. And try to relate that with their social position in the group and the social behaviors. We also collect fecal samples for DNA. I just got the news that we already have genotyped 200 individuals, so we are building a database with the genetic information of each individual that later can be useful for the studies of predation that I will explain. So this is what it looks like from the drone. We have horses foraging here, and we want to study their social interactions, the distance, and also build social networks to understand how the positioning of the horses is related to their social behavior and female integration. So young females that integrate the group, where are they located and which are their preference. And also here you can see we are also studying the movement of the horses while they move, and usually in the front we have the short video clip. In the front we have the leader female, but the male is always located in the back, more peripheric, and trying to move the group. If there's two males, they both travel on the back of the group. So I showed you before that males fight amongst them. You can see here on the top, the video is not great in the beginning, but you can see on the top right, I don't have a pointer, so it makes it difficult for me to explain, but there's a male that is protecting the harem group. Well, it's too heavy. Okay. Okay. So this is the male. This is other bachelor males that are around, and the male is gonna put himself between the group of females and the other males and try to protect them from the bachelor males that are trying to be close to the females. Okay. So other things we are looking at, as I explained, is the mother-infant behavior. And here, for example, in this case, we have 3 foals in this group. One foal is here, nearby the mother. She's the youngest one. And then we have another foal that's here. She's still young, but the older foal, we can see this is the mother, and she's a little bit more separated from the mother. So this kind of distance over the development, I'm also looking at it. And which are the closest individual. Unfortunately, what makes it difficult is because over the years, despite of the birth rate is pretty constant, but the mortality in the first year is very high, and it's reached 100% in the last 2 years. So that means no foals can survive. And this is mainly because of the predation pressure that has been increasing in this site. And we are collaborating with wolf researchers from Kyoto University to try to understand the predation rates, and also by identifying all the individuals genetically, we can know, for example, which individual is in the horse feces or wolf feces that they have consumed. So we can make the correspondence and try to understand which horses have been predated and which behavioral traits are more favorable or not. So another thing is human intervention, and so far we cannot discriminate yet the differences in the causes of the horse disappearance and mortality. So this is just, we also set up some camera traps if we find the dead horses, but there are other things that we are doing, like the researchers of the wolves are marking the with GPS the wolves, so when they find the kill site, they can easily call us to go there and try to identify the horse on site. If not, we collect the sample and to be analyzed later. So this is a site of the killing site, and you can see 5 wolves here, and they are quite aggressive towards each other because of it's a feeding situation. So in this time we could find 5 horses, 5 wolves feeding on the carcass. And usually we can detect if it was killed by wolf or not by checking the marks on the neck. So if the carcass is still intact, we can know that. And not only horses, but other scavengers also, this is a fox, and they also feed on the remains of the carcasses. And it's interesting because they do not overlap, of course. The wolves consume the carcasses. After the wolves leave, the fox is probably checking, and she approaches. And once the wolf come, the fox leave, and we have that on camera trap. So just to see, it's a bit not very nice, but over 5 days, the carcass is completely consumed. And on the 3rd day, it's disintegrated, because if I see the horse like that, I can identify which one is. But like this, I cannot. So in these cases, we just collect the tissues, and we cannot know if it was predated by wolves or simply died from some disease. After only, if we can collect the tissues, we can know. So, but dying is not always, does not have to be a bad thing necessarily. So we take advantage of some situations where we see injured individuals and try to study how other individuals react towards these injured or dead individuals. And there are some old cases that reported that horses perceive other individuals' pain, and also they talk about grieving in horses. So we wanted to explore this topic because it's a growing topic in the animal behavior world. And so we want to understand how individuals behave towards dead and injured. So this case is a case of injured fall. And this is just, we observed the fall injured in the morning. And this is a bit confusing, but we have the distance of the mother and the stallion to the fall. And we can see that the mother and the father, which is the stallion, they remain close to the fall. And even the fall, the stallion is the one keeping the fall in the group. So the fall cannot move, but he's hurting the fall. So in the morning, he tries to keep the fall together with the group. And this is the mother nearby. So mother is always nearby the fall. In the morning, both of the parents stay together with the fall. And early afternoon, the mother tries to run away from the male and join the fall. But here we can see also mother and the stallion remain together with the fall. This is what the mother is the black one, and the father is the blue one until this minute. And then what happened later, other individuals from other groups, especially 3 of them, they also contact and interact with this injured fall. So not only the individuals from their group, but also other non-related, not genetically related, also interact with the injured kid. And I'm just going to show you what happens. So this is the male, the mother is nearby the fall, and the male approaches and smells the fall. This behavior is called snapping. It's like a submissive behavior performed only by young individuals. But later the male approached the mother and tried to herd the mother back to the group. So he doesn't want her to stay with her kid. He wants her to move back to continue their natural behavior of moving around the field. But this happens like 4 times. The mother approached the fall and the male always herd the mother back until she remained with the group and left the fall alone. So I said that other individuals interacted with the fall, and this is a young female from other group that approached and lick the fall. This behavior is observed in mothers that have newborn kids. But also in this case, we can see that she showed some concern and she remained nearby this kid. Usually the horses are very aggressive towards other falls from other group. If a fall from other group approach, they chase and kick them away. So that means if they approach and they interact with the fall like this, it means they realize that something is happening. But the mother left, but the mother came back. And basically, what happened was the mother came back to the fall, but she was being harassed by these 2 bachelor males, constantly harassed. So she was protecting her kid and also herself, but at some point she left the kid because she has to choose between her survival and leaving the kid alone means she could lose the group and be harassed by other males or even predated. So basically, this shows us that the mother-fall attachment is strong at this age, but some social or environmental factors can affect the mother's decision of remaining with her fall, because grouping is important. And horses need their group to protect themselves against predation in other groups. So also we saw that at the end, not only the relatives of the fall show interest, but also other individuals that are not related genetically with the fall, they were interested in this case. So just briefly to show that it's not only predation that's affecting horses' dynamics and the population. So this is the number of individuals that had disappeared over time. So we had here like 20 individuals in 2016, but also more than 20 individuals in 2018 until now. So the population has decreased by half. And we know it's because of human intervention in predation, but we cannot quantify this yet. I'm going to just show what happens if one male is removed by the group. So we had 5 cases of males that were removed by owners and how this affects the social structure of the group. So this is, here we have a male and these are the 5 females. This is the group. The male was removed. So the male was removed by the group and this was Kanazawa group, and then what happened, the females moved to other group. So they became the Kanazawa females and the Unzen group. And then the male from that group also disappeared, but maybe due to predation, we don't know, because he was, he looked like Guerrero, and the owners usually do not take Guerreros out of the group, they take the ones that are white-faced. I cannot be sure about that. So they moved to this group. And again, I don't know why they did not remain in this group, if it was because it was the female decision, or if the other females and males rejected them. But they moved again to other group. So they moved 3 times. And a few days later, one of the females of this group was predated by wolves. So this is just one case, of course, but there have been some reports in Galicia that says that changes in the group leave the individuals more vulnerable to predation. So we need to take that in account if we want to preserve the horse population. So final considerations. We are developing intensive and extensive studies with the help of technology to understand the evolution of the equine social system and their adaptations to deal with predatory pressures. But also at the same time we want to promote the conservation of this breed that is endangered. So showing our work and advertising to people, and maybe we can raise some awareness. But also what this teaches is that we don't have to look always to the dark side of death. If the individuals die, we can take this opportunity to study, for example, predatory interactions, also understand more about horse cognition towards the dead and injured conspecifics. And of course, we need to work together with the local people and local authorities so that the owners can be reimbursed by their losses, because if a wolf kills a horse, that's damage for them, and it's very difficult to prove that the horse was killed by the wolf, because as you see, the corpse disappeared in 3 days. So we need to work together with local people and local authorities to help them, and so that they can help us to back. Okay, so I'd like to thank many people that made this project possible, and thank you all for listening to me.